So unless you've been living under a rock, and honestly, given the state of the internet, that might not be a bad idea. You've probably seen something about the Epstein Files. They got unsealed, the internet melted down, everyone panicked, and suddenly half the population decided they were experts on federal law and flight logs. And as usual, the conversation immediately devolved into, this is proof the left is evil, and actually, this is proof the right is evil. Actually, actually, this is proof that the Illuminati is running the economy. We're all just NPCs. And meanwhile, I'm sitting they're like, guys, can we please have one serious conversation? Just one. So today I'm going to talk about what the Epstein documents actually say, what they don't say, what should happen next, and why treating this like a political football is one of the most disastrous mistakes we can make. Because regardless of which team you're rooting for, in the big red versus blue Hunger Games, human trafficking is not a political issue. It's a human rights issue. So, let's talk. The phrase Epstein Files refers to various court documents from lawsuits involving Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, most famously the Jeffro versus Maxwell defamation suit, which lasted years and led to thousands of pages of sealed testimony. Recently, a judge unsealed a large batch of these records, like depositions, interview transcripts, correspondence, flight logs, communications between the legal teams, names of witnesses, staff, acquaintances, pilots, and assorted mentions of people connected to Epstein's life. And here's the first important note, which I wish the internet would tattoo on its forehead. Being mentioned in a document is not the same as guilt. Court records can include people who reported Epstein, people who saw suspicious behavior, people who met him once, people who were staff, people the court was investigating, people who were victims, people rumored to be connected but never accused, or people who were literally name dropped in conversation. The documents are like a messy group chat of the legal system. Some messages matter, some don't. And some of those are just there because lawyers are allergic to brevity. So before anyone tries to make an exposed compilation on TikTok, please take a breath and remember that context is everything. We know that Epstein operated for decades. We know multiple survivors came forward as early as the late 90s. We know law enforcement had warnings. We know the FBI had warnings. We know prosecutors had warnings. And we know that Epstein continued to operate anyways. We know he had a team of recruiters, a staff that moved people around like cattle, private jets, a private island, access to powerful circles, and an entire system that protected him. And the thing that should terrify everyone, regardless of politics, is this. Epstein didn't get away with it because he was smart. He got away with it because institutions protected him. He wasn't some criminal mastermind. He didn't even have superpowers. He didn't hack the matrix. He just existed at the crossroads of money, power, connections, and an absolute infuriating level of institutional apathy. You know how people say the system is broken? Yeah, no. The system is working exactly as it's designed, for the people it's designed to protect. In 2008, Epstein received one of the most bizarre plea deals in American legal history, and I'm not saying that lightly. Legal scholars still look at the deal like it's written in hieroglyphics. He pled guilty to a state-level charge, served 13 months, much of it on work release, meaning he could leave the facility for 12 hours a day. A man who treated humans like cattle, serving 13 months and gone for 12 hours a day. That's not jail. That's a mildly inconvenient Airbnb. And the deal included immunity for any potential co-conspirators, which is not a thing. That's not a clause normal people get. This is the legal equivalent of like, okay, you can go to timeout for 5 minutes, and all your friends who helped you egg the neighbor's house also get off scot-free, and we'll apologize to you for the inconvenience. The victims weren't informed, which breaks federal law. A judge later ruled that the government violated the rights of the survivors. And here's the part that matters. This was not a partisan failure. It wasn't one side. It wasn't one administration. It was systemic. When power protects power, it doesn't check voter registration first. Epstein's social circle was huge, not because people liked him, many didn't, but because he was a social climber, financier, and a resource. He funded researchers, he hosted dinners, he donated to institutions, he networked aggressively, he gave rich people what rich people love more than anything: access to each other. And the documents show a web, and it's a web that includes witnesses, associates, employees, people who he targeted, victims, people who cut ties, and yes, people who may engage in wrongdoing, but the docs alone do not prove guilt. It's basically a map of everyone who interacted with him in some capacity. And the obvious truth is this: he didn't choose friends based on ideology, he chose based on influence. If he thought you were useful, he invited you. If he thought you were rich, he invited you twice. If he thought you could help him, he invited you and probably sent you a fruit basket. Okay, here's the core of what I'm trying to say in this video. This case isn't about Democrats versus Republicans. It's about children. It's about vulnerable people. It's about exploitation and power. Trafficking is defined by the UN as a human rights violation, not a crime, a violation of the fundamental rights of human beings. Trafficking destroys autonomy, safety, childhood, dignity, mental health, and often futures. And Epstein's case reveals a horrifying pattern. People with power can get away with more because institutions are slower to act, more willing to negotiate, more willing to doubt victims when the accused is wealthy. This is the real issue. Human beings being treated like cattle, and they're getting off, and the people who started it are getting off scot-free. The system didn't fail because of politics. It failed because of power. If the survivors had been wealthy, if the survivors had been politically connected, if the survivors had been protected by institutions, we would not be having this conversation. This is about whose voice matters and whose don't. When the files were unsealed, instead of discussing systemic failures, the internet did what the internet does best: turn everything into a meme war. This proves the left is evil, they would say. No, this proves the right is evil. Actually, it proves astrology chart is correct. Actually, it proves the flight logs are fake because my uncle's barber's cousin said so. I'm begging you, stop. Stop being at each other's throats, because that's what they want. They want you to be focusing on the wrong things, so it'll just go away. This does not need to just go away. The more people that treat this as a partisan issue, the more predators benefit, because polarization equals distraction. Distraction equals inaction. Inaction equals silence, and silence is where predators thrive. Here's what experts say needs to happen. We need full transparency. Unseal the remaining documents, redacted to protect victims, and sunlight is the best disinfectant. Stop giving wealthy offenders special deals. No more celebrity exceptions. Proper funding for trafficking investigations. Most anti-trafficking units in the U.S. operate on shoestring budgets. We need mandatory reporting audits. Every report must be logged, tracked, and escalated. No exceptions. Survivor-focused lawmaking, better legal support, better trauma-informed services, long-term resources. Nonpartisan oversight, because when one party owns an issue, the other side stops caring. A public that refuses to treat exploitation like entertainment. Stop making this a meme. Stop turning victims into hashtags. Stop turning a human rights disaster into a political dunk contest. At the end of all this, the Epstein case isn't about one island, one criminal, one courtroom, one political party. It's about whether we allow money and power to silence victims. It's about whether vulnerable people matter when the accused is rich. It's about whether institutions protect children or protect themselves. So the next time someone tries to turn this into a way to score points online, just remember, children aren't partisan. Human rights aren't partisan. Justice isn't partisan. And if we treat it that way, we guarantee this happens again. I'll see you in the next video.